David Lee is also a longtime collaborator of mine. We got to know each other in Shanghai back in 2009, first through a video conference while I was sitting in Irvine talking about online gaming. And David was hanging out in Shanghai. But then we met in person at a co-working space called Xindan Wei in Shanghai. That's where the meditation people work, and that's where David also, with a couple of other people, started China's first hackerspace. So I've known David for a while. I'm very excited he's here today, giving a more formal introduction of him. So David has been contributing to open source software since the 1990s. He's a member of the Free Software Foundation, committed to Apache projects, and board director of Object Web. In 2010, as already mentioned, he co-founded Xinshitian, which is the Chinese name of China's first hackerspace, translates loosely into something like new workshop, or even more loosely translated, new factory. So it was the first hackerspace, as I said, but really sort of started expanding ideas around open source hardware making and tinkering that had been floating around across different parts of China. In 2011 then, we co-founded a research hub, Hacked Matter, that brought together people from industry, from research, from the arts, from policy, and brought them to China. So many of the people who came to our event with workshops at the time were not just from China, but also from other parts, and was really the idea to help people engage with China in different ways, especially when it comes to technology innovation. In 2015, David then co-founded Maker Collider, a platform to develop next generation Internet of Things from the Maker community, and he is now also the executive director of the Shenzhen Open Innovation Lab. And he will be talking today about too many innovation cathedrals. So welcome, David.
Thank you. And just a note, the nice faithful reminders. Exactly 3 years ago today, we are at the Shenzhen Maker Fair. We have this picture pop up with Chris Anderson, Dale Dougherty, Terry Chen, Eric, me, and Sophia was taking the pictures, and Anna in the background somewhere. So, well, Marianne is like, yeah, woman in the background. But anyway, no, I think that joking aside, it's really that I don't think these days the word innovations is being thrown around a lot. It seems everything is innovation, but the thing is when it comes back down, everybody's mind has a very specific mindset about what innovation look like, who, where, how, and well, the cathedral of innovations. This is the Apple spaceship headquarters. Well, not sure how architecture look at this, but some of them will say this looks like a call center. But this is the vision of what kind of exterior an innovation space look like. This is the interior. This is the Google new office. This is how interior of an innovation space look like. And this is what kind of space innovative people work at. And this is how innovation people talk. This is the ritual. This is the TechCrunch disrupt. And for those of you who have seen the TV series Silicon Valley, that's also when they do that jerking things. So, well, I guess they are fans for the TV show, and all of this really coming down to one thing: is stereotype. What kind of person innovates? And it's this. It's the program. It's this kind of stereotypical people. Whatever those people do is innovation. And the rest of the innovation doesn't really count. The rest of innovation doesn't really matter. And all of this comes from a long history over the past. Oh, this is Ray Kurzweil graph. I'm not going to do the singularity bit. But it's really, in the past 50 years, one of the most disruptive technology is information technology. They are changing industry, they are changing practice. And everything we see before this is the result of all this change. But this change none of them started with a glorious beginning. Every single one of them has a very interesting past. So
I have invited here today 3 industry experts to have a panel discussion on software.
this is the very doggy past.
And now,
Of
ladies and
Macintosh.
gentlemen, the Macintosh software dating game.
Welcome to the Macintosh software dating game. Software CEOs, could I please ask you to introduce yourselves?
Hi, Fred Gibbons, President of Software Publishing Corporation.
Hi, I'm Mitch Kapor, President of Lotus. We do a product called 123.
My name is Bill Gates. I'm chairman of Microsoft. And during 1984,
So that's the very doggy past of the PC. It's not all glorious. It's the internet, which been symbolized by that a lot of those cool buildings. This is the origin. This is GeoCity and MySpace. Every single one of them, every single one of innovation, before they get sorted out, before they get defined, before they get harmonized, they have this very chaotic, very crazy, everybody try everything kind of pass. And this comes to the question is when we look at Shenzhen, it's interesting because, I mean, Marianne did a great introduction, so I can save like 20 minutes. The entire Shenzhen people look at today is the result of actually the just past 5 years, 7 years of rebuilding up of this space. But that's how people perceive. I mean, because right now, Shenzhen is starting to look like the first part of it is an innovation hub. But ignoring the powers of what actually drives it to happen, ignoring the background of what the city actually do. And one of the big part, and again, thanks to Marianne covering this site, 25 years ago when Shenzhen gets opened up, this is the mass manufacturers. And these are actually 2 persons. We'll probably recognize one of them. Depends on which side. Also, it's Tim Cook and Terry Gou, the chairman of Foxconn. Actually, the chairman of the Foxconn parent company. Last October, Tim Cook came down to Shenzhen, announcing Apple is making an innovation center in Shenzhen. And with this roundtable discussion with the Prime Minister, the first word comes out of Tim Cook's mind. Tim Cook's mouth is I remember when the first time I was in Shenzhen 25 years ago. This is how it gets built up. So a lot of people first model Shenzhen as this mysterious oriental land just got discovered by the makers. It's actually a ridiculous notion. But that notion is actually so been believed today. It's becoming a new narrative. It's becoming this kind of discovery of Shenzhen. This land has never, I mean, I got maker coming to Shenzhen, it's like, so Shenzhen only produced for China, right? Shenzhen has never have anything exported. I was like, dude, what's your iPhone? Read the back. It says made in China. So Shenzhen actually have a long history, opening up foreign direct investment, building all this up as first wave. And as Shenzhen, the other status is this space, these villages. It is collection of villages becoming the experimental ground for capitalism in China. Once the experiment is success, every place, every single one of the Chinese big city gets opened up. And this is the other side of Shenzhen nobody talks about, is by 2000, that's big part of calling the end of Shenzhen. Thank you. Thank you for your contributions. You prove capitalism will work in China. We'll just open it up. Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, the real city, the real talent of China are coming in to play this game. So thank you, Shenzhen. Bye-bye. And this is the end of Shenzhen. And this is really big projection. This is on the People's Newspaper. This is the official Chinese government papers. But Shenzhen didn't go down. What happened is because nobody cared, the other great industry really starting to pop up on the back of these gigantic manufacturers. The Huaqiangbei emerged. This ground-up, bottom-up innovation drive, they're starting to emerge. They grab onto opportunity. They grab onto the opportunity in the early 2000s to make VCD, DVD, MPEG-3, MPEG-4, and ultimately lead to one of the biggest wealth creations in Shenzhen, which is making this, the Sanzai phone. A lot of people like to also say, well, Sanzai, they just copy. They just copy iPhone, they just copy Nokia, they just copy Moto. But in reality, that's not the Sanzai. This is the Sanzai. Every single one of the things you see here, they are shipping product. They are not some demo, they are not some drawing, they are not some demos. And here's our favorite, the Buddha phone. But that's the other favorite. So 7 speaker, a mobile phone with 7 speakers, as loud as a boombox. So for 10 million units a year in China. And here's a question, who use it? Anybody want to take a guess? It's people working in the construction site. And this is what Sanzai is. It goes down into a very human-centric niche product era, recognizing the need of the people and be able to produce for them at a price they can afford. And this is really the key things about Sanzai it's not really about copying the iPhone or copying Moto. It's about recognizing people's need and leverage the kind of infrastructure in Shenzhen to be able to make this happen for them when the big company doesn't care about these users. And very fast forward to 2000, and if we're starting to think about what Sanzai means, this is long tail graph. This is a theory popularized by Chris Anderson to describing the market. So the red part is traditionally called the showhead market, which is traditional big company will go make this X number of this. If anything under this number, anything under this volume is not worth making. Anything under this volume is not economically viable. So if we think about the picture of the mobile market, the long tail market, the showhead is the company, the company formerly known as Nokia and Motorola. And this is Sanzai. This is whatever market is ignored by Nokia, whatever market is ignored by Moto, Sanzai took in, Sanzai bring in, Sanzai starting to fulfill that market. And this drive is so powerful. This part of thing is so powerful in that 10 years. By 2012, the Sanzai phone is 300 million a year. And it's a quarter of a global 1.2 billion shipment. 1 quarter, 300 million units a year. This is not just changing the entire landscape of the mobile industry. Let's think about how profound this change is. Today is 2017. Let's picture this. Let's take a time machine, go back to 2007. If I sit here in the lectures in University of Michigan in 2007 and I'm on stage, I'm predicting in 10 years, Nokia will go out of business. I will predict 2007, I'm predicting in 10 years, Nokia will go out of business. And Arena will be like, damn, I should give the time to Sergey. This guy's crazy. But in reality, it's less than 5 years. Both of them got acquired. Both of them went out of business. And right now I'm getting even worrier and worrier when giving this talk, because I do this talk in university. And I'm very, very quick. I'm going to be facing a group of students who have no idea what Moto and Nokia is. And how Shenzhen really doing? It's not because everybody say, okay, well, Shenzhen is easy. You just copy someone's phone and make it. It's actually not, because because you don't have any advantage just by reverse engineering. The cost of reverse engineering, the cost of production. Everybody talks about Shenzhen, Shanghai as they have some sort of magical production capacity. It's not. Manufacture, productions is a very refined science. It's a very refined practice. I mean, sitting here, the assembly line, the origin of the assembly line is not far from here. This is long tradition being practiced. Shenzhen is fast. It's because they are open. They are sharing. We always use this picture Sophia took as example. And I think Sophia also used this picture a lot. At some point, someone's going to read my palm print. In Shenzhen, it's not because the Shenzhen is fast, not because they have some special secret of production. It's because they are open. Everything you see here, composing a smartwatch, they are open component, commoditized on the market. You can get from multiple sources. As a creator, if you want to create a watch, you don't have to start from the scratch. You take one of this. You take one of each column. The circuit board, the mechanical part, the casing. And just by this, you have a new watch. Just by this, you have a new things you can put on the market. It's not about creating technology. It's not about making production. It's about the ability to recognize who needs it. And it's about the ability to recognize, to do this in a massive scale. In the practice of Shenzhen, there are tens of thousands of companies involved. There are hundreds of thousands of people involved in this industry. Everybody have a shot. Everybody can interpret the need for their special clients, their very special regions, their very special niche. And the other part of it is this is not just driven by, this cannot be done if you have only manufacturing. So every people think about Shenzhen as a manufacturing city, but it encompasses so much in the past 30 years, the shifting of the manufacturer outsourcing to China, starting with OEM. OEM means you design everything down to where the last screw goes in. And then you go to a factory, tell them, here, go produce. But in the past 10 years, OEM is no longer the biggest business in Shenzhen. It's ODM. ODM means as a factory, internally I have an engineer, at least I have access to engineer, I have access to design. I will do the whole things, and the brand just come in and say, okay, well, this one I like it. Can I have it in blue and white, 100,000 units each? And then here's my logo. And now the ODM goes produce. And Shenzhen is really that business. And running that business is not just productions. It's also designer. It's also engineer. So the other things Shenzhen, very few people knows about Shenzhen. Shenzhen is the first UNESCO City of Design in China. And Shenzhen got that title in 2008. This is huge amount of the industrial design that pop up in Shenzhen. Here's the number. Shenzhen has 4,000 industrial design house, 150,000 working industrial designer. Again, 150,000 working industrial designer. I don't think there's any city on earth have that many industrial designers. The engineering, the solution engineer, the technical solution engineer in Shenzhen is over another 100,000. So the massive talent of design engineering to go with the manufacturers, that's what makes Shenzhen work. That's what makes Shenzhen fast. Not because of there's some secret ways to run a sweatshop and underpaying your laborers. It's not. And the kind of startup has been generated in Shenzhen is also very different. So this is our good friend Robin. He will have never chance to be a programmer. He will never have a chance to stand in front of the TechCrunch Disrupt, but he doesn't care. This is a project he ran for 2 years. It's an Intel based TV stick, turning your TV into a computers. Couple people spend 6 months developing this, put it on eBay, sell 80,000 of them a year. And 80,000 might not look like a big number. In the world, everybody is looking at 10 million units. But if you're starting to multiply the number, it's 80,000 units at $130 each. That's $10 million business. So in this place, in this kind of environment, bootstrapping a $10 million business without a venture funding, without the additional financing is actually possible if you know how to work the system. And of course, this has been, there's also the innovation. And typical, this is innovation, but it's because they are too busy making money rather than giving talk. Nobody really think about them as innovation, but retrospect, they are. This is another thing I have very difficult convincing people to be impressed. This is a company called Wiko. It's a 5-year-old company. It just overtook Apple as the #2 mobile brand in France. It ships about 8 million units a year in France. And typically, if any startup in TechCrunch have even 1,000 of this kind of achievement, it will be like all over the TechCrunch, all over the news, but this is still very weird. Nobody feel like this is an achievement. Nobody actually feel impressed with this. Tenko, another interesting company. It's 50 million units in Africa every year. It's the biggest mobile company in Africa. Again, this is not considered as an innovative company. This is not considered as innovations. So this is really weird. Now we are in this worship of innovation in a very specific type. The narrative of different kind of innovation, the narrative of different kind of impact, the narrative of actual people making actual impact is having trouble registered in people's mind as innovation, as creativity, as real success. It seems right now we have these ideas of real success is to access to that stage, to be working in one of those buildings, to be under that. Only when you come from this kind of building, only you talk this way, only you dress this way, only you speak this way, the thing you make matter. Other than that, everything else is not. And that has been a very interesting thing coming down to Shenzhen. In Shenzhen, we are actually starting to receiving a lot of people who's not been recognized in that way, who's not been looked at as that kind of entrepreneur. We are getting people from Africa. We are getting people from Russia. We are getting people actually. Just cut this. Cannot read it, but I think some of people. So this is basically two Russian startup designers, Shenzhen, on the back of the online contest success, come down to Shenzhen trying to get their intelligent bear. Guess what? It's Michigan. Made in Shenzhen and forgot the other project. So no fanfare, just come down there, meeting people, getting used to the environment, talking about how to get their stuff to production so they can go back and sell it. Innovation starting this way. Innovation starting at the bottom. Innovation doesn't need the cathedral, doesn't need the ritual. Innovation is everywhere. It's this kind of things we are trying to figure out is when we are really talking about innovation these days, in addition to think about how we bootstrap innovation, I think we should recognize what innovation looks like, what kind of opportunity people are tapping in to think about making an impact. It's also quite interesting, the other story I always try to tell to people. It's one of the most amazing, this kind of bottom-up innovation, this kind of bottom-up, very open source, very open sharing. On one part, in the back of this, Shenzhen survived that part of the dismissal of Shenzhen. By the new round of Shenzhen, by the new round, why the government attention comes back to Shenzhen is around probably that 2010, 2011 time, when they look at the per capita GDP, the per capita income in China, they realize Shenzhen is in the top 4. It even surpassed cities like Beijing or Shanghai. And this is a city was left behind by the government. This is a city is deemed no longer important by the government politics because its experimental role has already finished. On that, it grow wild. It actually grow up to its own new open kind of ways to becoming an innovation center. And that story is not unique to Shenzhen. That story is repeatable. Giving a very open kind of environment, giving everybody the access, the drive to realize their dream. And on the back of that, giving them the tool of the modern society, to the modern technology, or not even technology, the modern utility. I'm going to stop using the word technology to describe internet. It's modern utility. This Taobao village, this is the story of, in the past 10 years, just emerging out of the rural village in China. So where to start? So yeah, I don't know if you can see this. This is, well, don't forget about the Chinese, just read the number. It reached 4.3 billion RMB. And this is in the middle of, I think this picture is taken in June. This is a village in the north of Jiangsu, about 2 hours from Shanghai. The village used to be known for plastic garbage recycle in 2005. 2007, a couple kids in the village opened up their Taobao shop, starting by just buying and selling the phone accessory. Those kids got married, took a honeymoon in Shanghai, and discovered this very interesting furniture shop called IKEA. And then decided, hey, these things looks easy to make. I think we can make them. Bought a few of them, took back to the village. Okay, well, here we need to quantify. A village in China is 60,000 people. It's not a few thousand people. It's a small, but by the standard of 1.7 billion people, it's a still pretty small size. Went back to the village. They think IKEA shoe rack is pretty much easy to replicate. So they went around the carpenters in the village, and only the 5th carpenter they talked to agreed to try it. By that time, most of the carpenters' main business in the village is making coffin. So yeah, one of them is brave enough to try it. So track around, make a replica, try to hack around so they can use the part, not the IKEA specific part. They put it on their website, sell 10 of them in the first week. So they are really happy, so they continue. That's 2007. Fast forward to last year, 10 years later. The village of 60,000 people has more than 3,000 Taobao shops, has more than 1,000 factories, are doing 7.5 billion RMB a year in sales. This is entirely grown up, allowing people the freedoms, not to leverage the modern utility, to leverage internet, to tap into e-commerce, to look at, to find where is their place. None of them is ever going to be coming into the shrine of the this kind of tech innovations, but they do innovate. They do figure out a ways to make something of themselves in their environment, what the world gives them. This is one of the founder of a company. He was 28. This company was 3 years old, and at the time of this picture taken, this is 60 million RMB year sales company with some 15% margins. and they are going on almost at the doubling every years. And it's really furniture how disconnected the modern entrepreneurial mind is to achievement, to really things. I was giving a talk of this in Shanghai, in one of the co-working space. I was talking about this and this kind of bottom-up opportunity, and how much of this is becoming the ecosystems of people to go there and starting business. And right there are 2 startups working on the website and mobile app for home furniture. Those are 3 people in the desk, just cramming in the desk, and self-funding, worry about whether or not they can pay for the desk the next month. And they look at this, and they just dismiss it. They just say, no, good for him. And then they just went back to, we are going to creating a furniture shop online. And those kind of distorted, those kind of things about what's been defined as innovations, it's right now, today, it's driving government policy. It's driving people's perception. It's even driving the writings. It's even driving what is worth research, what is worth look into, what is worth talk about. And we are missing out on a huge human success story. We are missing out on a big success stories. And the attentions to the Taobao village is actually huge. So I think earlier some people have showed the picture. Eric has showed the pictures of the Prime Minister going to Taihuo and launching the mass innovation, mass entrepreneurship policy. Actually, that was not correct. So the day when there is 2015 January 4th, 5th. This picture was taken in the Taobao village on November 2014. And this is actually the first recorded place of the Prime Minister launching one of his most important policy. But hey, if you go scream in the Taobao village with really successful young people, nobody here, nobody cares. It doesn't fit into that innovation narrative. It doesn't fit into that entrepreneurship narrative. These guys, in their 20s, running $1 million company, everything from scratch, but they don't get people's attention. People doesn't think this is something worth writing, something worth reporting, even something worth paying attention to. So he has to go around and tap into the other more interesting and more attention-grabbing, attention-driven movement, which is the maker movement. So the maker space, the Beijing Zhongguancun for the what's called the Sand Hill Road of China, with all the VC, that he get covered, that he gets, but along the way is for him, every time he goes to Davos, his speech never talks about maker movement, never talks about the Zhongguancun. It's always about Taobao village, because this is a real driver for the next economic shift, for the next innovation. So Taobao village was discovered in 2010 by Taobao. By definition, it's an administrative area, 10 million RMB more or more revenue, and at least 15% of the village population is involved in the e-commerce, whether it be customer service, manufacture, and delivery. In 2010, when they did the first survey, there are 75 Taobao village. Last year, it's 1,500 Taobao village across China. This is another real China maker story. Maker is not about the programmer creating the next technical gadgets. It's about technology giving people the opportunities to make something of themselves, to leverage that access, to leverage that to move on. So this is my last slide, and really is as this as we talk about innovations, I think going beyond you need to go beyond the bias of today, what constitute innovations, and rethinking about the big environment like makers. What are they bringing? They are not bringing a new Tony Stark. They are bringing whatever Tony Stark has to everyone. And it's about how we creating an environment to let everyone have a shot, have the chance, instead of only the specific type gets picked. So, thank you.
So we have time for questions.
Could you speak, I think one of the things that's really interesting about reform and opening is it's basically still a question of urbanizing the rural. Like the rural remains this very important site of reform and opening. Could you talk to the level of investment that the Chinese state has made into making villages able to use these?
So, I learned about this village. So, let me show you. This is the village is Saji. When they right now Saji has a museum. Celebrated their first computer in 2007, going on the internet. It was actually very terrible. It's a very low-end machines. The connection was not reliable. At one point, when their business grew a little bit bigger, they actually have a move into an office in the nearby bigger counties, so they have internet access. But because of this bottom-up effort, everybody's starting to go into e-commerce. The telecom finally said, okay, well, they are running a better fiber line to it. The place starting with if you look at this place is called Saji. It's in the North Jiangsu. It's actually in the middle of nowhere. Going there from Shanghai, it's 4.5 hours. It's 2 hours on the high-speed train, an hour on the bus, and then 30 minutes on the that's not even DD. It's one of the countryside car, and it reminds of these days. But the interesting part is the 60%. One of the things you go there to see as a Chinese village. One of the things you notice, there are so many young people. The record they show is the 95% of the people are still out in the village. There are no young people going out, and the other part of it is the infrastructure was built after they have this. This is actually the modern factories of the Saji, and this whole factory was built in the past 2 years. It's only when government decided they can afford it, then so they have built a factory, run it to the owners. The only thing government is actually do for them is when we go there, the government official was telling me, come, do business with them. One advantage they have is they don't pay tax. They basically just let this, the only thing government really gives them is we'll just turn the other side, or just ignoring you are not paying tax.
So for example, the roads, what level of government built the roads?
It's the typical country rule, and it's it's really add on. They are coming in with after they generate this kind of massive economic for the village, the government invests into the road.
Okay.
They don't have so this is very not. You have to think about this. The Saji used to be on one of the top 10% poverty list of China. That's what the village was, and with that kind of, it's not Shenzhen, it's not. Even the nearest big city, Xuzhou, is not getting that much funding, that much attention, let alone a small village.
No, the reason I'm interested is because, for example, in Shenzhen, what the state did was they brought the grid up to the borders of the village, and then the village itself connected it.
But Shenzhen is a very different story. So we are doing this rural village with flat study, and then we went around in Shenzhen. Okay, well, I need to find a poor village, and then people's reaction is that there's no poor village in Shenzhen. So this is the other side of this grown-up story. Is this kind of opportunity is enabled by modern utility like internet, like e-commerce, and mostly by the determination and the effort of the people who wants to participate. And the other side of this is very open natures of things. People, once you make the business, your cousin, everybody's starting to open the same shop, but there's no dedication. It's about that cooperation and that tolerance. And the third part is they still do it today. I mean, even at this 7.5 billion scale, is because it actually, the openness works out better for everyone. And it's kind of interesting is even at this level, I mean, there's problem, even from the Prime Minister of China, is having problem letting people recognize this as innovation, recognize this as an opportunity. And he just keeps screaming for 5 years and nobody listens.
I'm just trying to figure
There's some more questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to follow up on that, I think it comes from Sergey's presentation as well. So is innovation anything that makes a lot of money?
Well, make some money would be nice.
Can you please say a bit more about that? How do you define it? Because you seem to have presented things that make a lot of money.
It's not making, you divide 7.5 million by 60,000 villagers. It's not that much money each. That's a good money, but they are not super crazy rich. So I think one of the things I pick up this time, and thanks to Marianne, is I love market, I hate capital. Making a lot of money by capital means, as that programmers, chess pumping, my paper company is worth $100 million. That's a lot of bullshit money. I mean, we are talking about down to earth, I build what people need, and they pay me for it kind of money. So we have to distinguish between the market and the capital. So
Sure,
it's not
but
about making a lot of capital
Can
money.
you just connect it back to innovation? So is anything that is like this, what is innovation?
They took what they have access to. They took what the modern technology have given them, leverage every single one of them and make something of themselves. Innovation is not about that narrative. And again, back to that very important side it's not about that programmer on stage pumping chairs. I'm saving the world with these gadgets. I'm saving the world with these things. I'm saving the world by creating a website where I can check if the girl is dating someone. That is the narrative of innovation. It only needs to be having the young white guys on stage pumping the chairs, saying, okay, well, I'm saving the world. That's the innovation we recognize today. And that's dangerous. Because why is it not innovation? If a farmer, 20-something years old farmer, is running a 15 million RMB a year e-commerce company, how can there not be innovations? How can they not be respected? And if all our narrative is that we need these chest pumping white boys on stage saving the world, then we are really in the wrong mindset about innovations.
So I saw there were many questions. So how about you two in the back, and then we'll move on. We have like 4 more minutes. So how about can we collect the questions, and then we'll have David answer them.
Okay. So my question is about these young people who are now working in the Taobao village. So are these people like originally from this rural village? So then what is their educational
High school.
level? High school?
Elementary school.
Okay. So is the government helping them to build these
No.
factories?
Well, the government only built this factory because they can have the money to afford it.
Okay.
We're not talking about Shenzhen government. We are not talking about Shanghai. We are talking about a rural village, the other side of 100 million people below poverty line village.
Okay, my question concerns like the 2 photographs that you showed. So one of which was the lots where you're deconstructing it, and you're showing that this part this part connected to make a new watch, right? And then the next image after that was the phone, and how you transitioned that into like a speaker, and then there was a camera. So my first question is there a limitation to what can be made from all these parts? Because what happens with open source communities is, I'm sure as you're aware, is that some people tend to use these technologies for not appropriate agendas. So for example, like I can get right now an image of a 3D printed gun right now, download it, and then 3D printed gun, and then shoot it. So is there a concern in that in the Shenzhen mentality of production? Because that's something that I'm curious.
We'll collect questions.
One more.
Okay, one more.
Oh, it was a comment, not a question. So
Okay.
about hearing different definitions of innovation, right? So in my fieldwork in Ghana, a lot of the tech entrepreneurs defined innovation as responding to a very specific social and political need in their context. And to me, what I'm hearing David articulating is that innovation is opportunities for a specific set of people. And I think that's an interesting conversation to have, because all of these are put up against the Silicon Valley definition of innovation. And I think we're in a moment where we can put together these different definitions of innovations and see where they're being articulated around the world.
Yeah, so I think back to that is the,
Was there one
one more?
question? No? Okay, so we'll have
Okay.
a few,
Yeah,
and then
I
we'll go into
I think there's no limitation of what, I mean, we are living in a world where, so one thing I didn't articulate is that we are living in a world where the mean of productions is a service. As long as you have appropriate enough money, you can toss it over to Shenzhen and you get things made. Oversimplified, but it's what the service is. So right now it's not about what you can make, but it's about what are you making for? What's the purpose? And that's also the other things, and didn't get a chance to expand, but real quick is this is the battleground of the last part of the mean of production as the strategy advantage was fought. This is the US motor automobile versus Japan. After that, the mean of production has been transforming into a service. Right now, owning the factory doesn't mean you owning the products. Terry Gou doesn't own products. Tim Cook doesn't own factories. And that's the new world we are coming into. And this is what you leverage as this kind of opportunity to make something of yourself, to make something useful, to make an impact. And by impact, it's shipping product people need, they can afford, and they are paying it for you. It's the most simple definition of making impact.
On that uplifting note, I would suggest that we take a 5 minutes break, so we can meet all back up here at 4:40. So we'll continue these conversations in the round table.